Welcome to the Small Scape. Today we are in the lounge, and I realized in the last couple months as I was trying to decide how to scape my big tank, the 22 long back there, that's a big tank for me, there were kind of certain templates that are in my mind that help me make decisions how to scape something, because if there's too many options I get decision overload and I just don't do anything because I just can't decide. So if you are somebody who maybe you don't think that you can aquascape, or you don't know where to start, or you just can't make a decision how to scape something, here are 10 different scapes that I think anybody can do. Number 1, the tree trunk. And your disclaimer is, I am not a professional aquascaper, so these are my made-up names. This is what I call them in my own head. I hope it helps you. Let me know if you have any names for any of the scapes that you see, appreciate, or create. But the tree trunk, I think, is a very solid aquascape to do. It's basically a piece of driftwood that looks like a tree trunk that is placed vertically in a tank. I have done it multiple times because I'm quite obsessed with the woodland or natural kind of aesthetic. And this one was at one of the Aquashellas. And this tank was one of 4 that was in our studio for a couple of years here. And it was based off of a tree that I saw in Gatlinburg in the Smoky Mountains National Forest that had all these vines growing up it, and I thought it was the coolest thing, and I wanted it in a tank. But sometimes you will have to actually attach, and I use zip ties to attach several branches together to make it look a little bit more substantial. But generally you're going to have plantings around it. It's going to be off to the side, maybe more towards the center, depending on which one you what kind of tank you have and what size driftwood you have. This one I planted with a Nubius that got very large after a while. The white cloud minnows were really fun. Oh, and before I forget, one of these that I'm going to show you is going to be the inspiration for my 22 long. This was at one of the Aquashellas. I did not scape it, but I would categorize this as a very, very cool tree trunk. Number 2 is, yes, it's kind of related. It's the fallen tree trunk. I like to do these as well. You'll see that after a while. It's really perfect for a bookshelf tank that's very long, and especially if you have a little piece of driftwood like I did. For this one I got at Chicago Aquashella, I believe, from Flip Aquatics, and loved it so much. The little tank that I scaped there, I was able to, I had purchased it myself, and so I took it back and I wanted to recreate it in one of my bookshelf tanks for my yellow shrimp that I love very, very much. But it's really fun. It's up to you if you want to have any of it coming out of the water, part of that tree trunk, but it just is supposed to emulate part of a tree trunk like this one. This is what I did in Aquashella, the same piece on the right, but it also had a kind of a matching piece that I got on the left that looks like the base of the tree trunk, and then the rest of the trunk kind of fell over in my little story in my head, and then just laid there. Number 3, I call the ledge, and I do this one a lot. It's one of my favorites. I try to tell myself now to stop doing it, but this is an example of something I think that's very easy to execute. It's basically just a big chunk of driftwood typically, but this one I kind of extended it out with some dragon stone, and then you can put some branches. I put a little manzanita branch on top, and then I do like to have kind of like a little spiky plants. I like micro sword or cryptparva can be fun. I've got some bacopa in the back there too, but it's basically nothing in the front. The ledge, maybe a little bit of plantings I'll put towards the front, but then everything towards the back. I really like it. Now a higher end scaper would probably do a carpet in the front of the ledge, but I don't do carpeting plants generally. But this is another one that I recreated. Yep, I call it a ledge. It would be another ledge, and it was one of the 4 in the studio. And I remember when I found this piece of driftwood, I really wish that I would have had 3 more, because I would have extended the scene this scene right across all 4 of them. But alas, I only had 1 piece, and then I just added little kind of skinny pieces of driftwood, Anubias in the back. That was super fun. I actually have this tank still up and running. Doesn't look so hot right now, and I've been meaning to break it down, but I just can't make myself because I love that piece of driftwood so much. So this tank right here, you may be seeing sometime soon when I do a little something special for it, but I may keep it going and just kind of adjust it a little bit. Number 4, the tunnel scape. And I think that this is a very popular way to scape for good reason, because it is, who doesn't want to see their fish swimming through a tunnel? I miss this scape. I liked it very, very much. It was a bow front 14 gallon. And I think it's very simple to come up with a piece of driftwood. Sometimes, I mean, I would look for pieces of driftwood that create kind of like that tunnel, but in this case, I had 2 pieces that kind of formed it, and I know when I saw it at a show, I think I got them at the OCA, I knew in my head that I wanted them to create a tunnel, but and luckily I think they were attached to slate, which keeps them down, not from floating. And then just layering rock, I had dragonstone here, just layered kind of flat, but also pointing towards the front of the entrance of the little tunnel. And I really do miss the scape. It was so nice. It was just very kind of calming, and who doesn't love a tunnel scape? Number 5, Iwagumi. I think that not everybody's going to agree with me, but I do think that it is a scape that everybody should try at least once. You're going to have a single kind of rock, say rootstone or dragonstone would be great, and then a plant such as dwarf hairgrass. I would probably use microsword just because it doesn't require the extra light, and it's just very, very simple. I think it doesn't have to win any awards, but I think it would be really fun to create something like that. Number 6, yes, I call it the diagonal half and half. It's just what I call it in my head. If you were to divide the tank in on the diagonal, bottom left to top right, or vice versa, you have one type of stone on one side, and you have a whole bunch of the same plant on the left. This is basically the same plant. It's Anubias, I think, congensis, and Java fern, just a mass of Java fern, and is very simple, very striking, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it's somewhat simple to kind of execute. Number 7 is kind of similar. I call it the left to right or the right to left. I don't know what else to call it. Basically, it is also taking up a diagonal portion, just a half of the tank on the diagonal. Now, if I were to do this again, that piece of driftwood on the right is totally bothering me because it's chopped off. So it should definitely be broken off, be a little bit softer. But generally, I really enjoyed this tank because basically half of the tank is filled with plants and driftwood, kind of going from the bottom left to the top right, and rocks kind of filling it in nicely, either standing up towards the left and then laying down as it getting smaller when you go towards the right. I really did enjoy this tank. Number 8, the Riverbank, and this is your teaser. This is the scape kind of template in my head that I am going to, or you can call it a style, I just call it a template, of what I would like my 22 long to have. And it's the Riverbank. It's when you're driving down a road that's really beautiful and you glance off to the right and it's like a creek that goes through, that's like going away from you, and you can kind of see like cross section. It's just what I want. A riverbank. It's going to look something similar to this. You can have branches. It's basically going from highest on the outsides, narrowing in towards the center, and rocks built up really nicely, more greenery when you go out, and then branches coming either from both sides, one side, and kind of going above the water. This is my jam. I have to have this. And this is the actual picture. These are pictures I'm getting from Pinterest because I couldn't find them anywhere. And then I was like, oh, I have them in Pinterest. This is the inspiration for my 22 long. And I really do love river rocks, smoother rocks. I'm going to see how many I have, if I have the right sizes and shapes and all that. But hopefully this is what you'll be seeing in the 22 long. Number 9, kind of similar, maybe a little bit double island. I call it the double island because instead of a single island, you have two, one on the left, one on the right. This is made, this island is created by river rocks, but you can also use a dragon stone or a Sirius stone to give it, a little bit more texture. And then plantings above it, creating basically two islands. So when you see the activity of the fish, they're going to be going in between the two islands, which is kind of cool, but relatively simple to recreate. And I think it's just a really kind of pleasing way to look at an aquarium. Number 10, the island. Yes, this is an island that I created in a 12-gallon or 11-gallon long bookshelf tank, and loved this. I created my island with Sirius stone. It was for my candy cane tetras and my beautiful betta. Of course, I did not want to have these sponge filters on each side for complete display purposes here, but there was no other option with it being in the fish room. Just had to run air, and it just was. So if I were to ever do an islandscape again, they would not ever have sponge filters. But generally, you have a pile of rocks in the center. You could have dragonstone, Sirius stone, and then back, I kind of call it back planting it. So you just plant along the back. I think that looks really nice. I generally, with an islandscape, don't plant a whole lot in the front, but I had some corkscrew val going along the back that grew in really nicely, and then a whole bunch of different plants planted on top of the rockwork. So plants that I attached, so anubias and bulbitis and stuff like that. So here's the bonus, number 11. I had no idea what to call it. I called it lying driftwood because it's kind of like a riverbed where driftwood has just kind of fallen and it's laying there, and it's got river rocks, just smooth colored rocks. And this was fun in this scape because I used my Petoskey stones, which is, they're just really cool to look at. So if you have any really cool river rocks, if you appreciate rocks like I do, then you can kind of highlight it in a scape like this. But it's very calming, it's very peaceful, and actually very simple to create. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know, do you have a favorite style or template, as I call it? If you also do make up names, have you ever made up a name for a certain kind of scape? And what are your favorites? Let me know, and I will see you next week.